I love juggling, and the best place to buy all things juggling related is oddballs.co.uk. That's oddballs.co.uk. I've been going to their shop since the 1980s, and now you can go there online too. The staff at Oddballs really know what they're talking about. Will the juggling axe, a fire torch and a juggling club work while I balance on a roller bowler? Yes, says the staff at Oddballs, because they've actually tried it. True story. They also sell bubble equipment, yo-yos, lassos, stilts, Diablos, roller bowlers and unicycles. The list goes on and on and on. So visit oddballs.co.uk right now and get yourself some juggling equipment. I did it back in 1988 and built a whole career out of it. The links and contact details for Oddballs are all in this episode's description.
So I go out into the outdoor balcony, okay?
Yeah.
And there's a big, there's two big tables set up. And they were maybe like 3 to 4 feet tall.
Yeah.
So, it wasn't it was more for you have a bar stool kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or you could stand at it and it's comfortable.
Yeah.
Put your elbows on. So it was pretty high actually. And there was two of them. So they had maybe 12 to 15 people seated around it.
Yeah.
And so it's outside. It was hot and sweaty. And I'm like, "Are you whatever?" I'm the comedian. They're like, "Oh, great! Come on over here." And I'm like, "Where's the stage?" Like, "Oh, well, we don't have one." I'm like, "All right. Do you at least have a spotlight or something?" Like, "No." I'm like, "All right. You have microphones?" They're like, "Yeah, we have that." I'm like, "Okay." So everyone's gonna sit here at the table. All right, I'm gonna go around the other side of the table and stand at the head, I don't know, like Jesus kind of thing, and a Last Supper thing, but not along the side. So I'm at the head of the table, and there's a big fan behind me, right? So I started get everyone calm down. I'm like, all right, and the microphone on, and I was just like, can everyone hear me? All right, yeah. And because the speakers outside were shitty, and it was already outside in the fan, they couldn't hear me very well through the speakers.
Oh no!
But the people inside could. Apparently, the speaker system is both inside and outside.
Okay.
So, for the first say 5 minutes, all these people are sitting inside Trafalgar, getting a free comedy show, not knowing what's going on. So eventually, I just said, "All right, you know what?" And I had to put the mic down. I said, all right, "Can you guys all hear me?" So then I just started to do my set and some crowd work with these people, just shouting at them. And halfway during it, 3 or 4 of their friends joined in late, and then they just come in. I was like, "Hey, how's it going? Where are you from?" and stuff. They're looking at me, "Who the hell's this?" Because they had no idea it was going to be a comedy show. They're just like, "Who the hell is this jackass? We don't know this guy. Why doesn't he shut up?" That kind of thing.
Hey, so this week I'm talking to stand-up comedian Pete Grella, and he also does improv as well. I guess he had to improvise pretty much at that setup. Okay, this interview was recorded the day after the national security law arrived in Hong Kong, direct from mainland China. So Pete and I do wonder if and what its effects will be on stand-up comedy in the region. Okay, finally I probably should explain that when I talk about wearing a condom and I should explain that I can't talk. When I talk about wearing a condom and dancing around on stage, I don't mean that I am naked and only wearing a condom. I'm actually talking about my act where I put a condom on my head and blow it up, which of course is much more sensible. But look, enough about me. Let's go and talk to Pete Grella. Probably ever doing now. Oh yeah!
That brings back memories of riding the rail cars and eating beans out of a tin with
Which is exactly
Crazy
what I want to
Joe
say.
and
Yeah,
Homeless
because
Bob and,
yeah, because you're from Magic America. Yeah.
Well, magic. All right.
So Pete Grella.
Yes.
Pete Grella.
Ben Matthews.
Where are you from? I mean, obviously, I'm sure that the masses of listeners, all my listeners, well, both of them.
Both of them?
Both
oh,
of them will have
nice.
probably heard of you because you're so famous. But just let's just say that there's a part of them, maybe their elbow doesn't know where you came from.
Okay, sure.
What would you say? Where are you from?
Well, I always tell people I'm from New York. That's just easier.
Yeah.
But I mean, technically, I was born in South Carolina.
Yeah.
In the U.S., lived there for 3 years, then grew up in Connecticut, then moved to New York, then moved to Florida, then back to New York, and then to Hong Kong. So
Okay, so you're from...
I just say I'm from New York.
New York. You're from New York.
That's where I've always felt home.
Which
That's
is
where
one
my
of the-
parents and my family are all from there. So.
And New York, one of the homes of stand-up comedy, right? One of the homes
Yes,
of stand-up
yes.
comedy. All right. Oh, just to go off on a complete tangent.
Mhm.
Were you ever locked up in like some sort of metal brace for a while? I seem to remember some sort of true
Yeah.
story. What was that?
Well, it was when I was about 14, 15, my mom noticed, I used to play baseball as a kid growing up. And as I was
it's
getting...
for the English people, it's a bit like cricket.
Like cricket and rounders.
It's like a square version of cricket. Yeah,
it's like a cricket and rounders kind of
rounders.
combination.
Oh yeah, we play rounders in England.
Yeah, right.
There
So
you go.
anyway, and so my mom noticed as I was getting taller and growing growth spurt, my uniform was really like small. It was like a t-shirt, and she just noticed my back was very curved.
Oh.
Like a hunch.
Oh.
If you looked at me from the side, I looked like an S.
Oh no!
Literally, so I had a hunchback.
As a kid.
Yeah, as I was getting older, so I called hunchback and swayback, kyphosis, lordosis, and just a tinge of scoliosis, which is when you look.
Oh my god!
Yes, I had like the trifecta. So she took me to the doctor, and he's like, "Oh yeah, he's got the kyphosis, lordosis. Here's some exercises that maybe if he stretches, it'll help." And I was 14, 15. I wasn't gonna do exercises. Even now, I always have trouble with sticking to stuff like that. But so their next option was to put me into a back brace, so that it straightened my back into a natural position, so that when the vertebrae kept growing and finished, then they would grow in the correct position.
Yeah.
If they didn't catch me in time, I had just some growth left because I was already at my full height. It had just some growth left. If they didn't catch me in time, the options would have been either one, I would have wound up looking like like the lops up ladies that we see in Hong Kong.
For people who are listening overseas, you have little old ladies who are really hunchback, kind of pulling around bits of cardboard.
Yeah, I mean it's literally like ladies and some men that have been like for the past 60 years, their life has been just to collect cans and cardboard and just take them to recycling, and so just because of that, their lifestyle just I hate to say lifestyle,
occupational hazard.
It's just had caused them to be completely hunched over. I would have looked like that, or they would have had to take me into surgery and lay me on my stomach and cut open my back and then physically pull the spine and manipulate it and then put it in a rod, and then I would have had to stay in the hospital for like 3 or 6 months laying face down while the body healed itself. So
it's really fascinating to find out where people are from, their backgrounds, their
background. I see what you did.
Their backstory.
Backstory.
Their backstory. But let's get back. Let's get back to the comedy.
Oh, by the way, it's called a Milwaukee brace, if anyone wants to Google that. Milwaukee, as in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Wow, the Milwaukee brace. Yeah, and no one can see this because this is a podcast, but I have a tendency to go off track.
That's why no one can see it.
I have a tendency to go off track. Yeah, that's why no one can see it, because if it was on TV, I'm sure millions would watch it. But I have this red card, so if I do wander off track, I'll hold this up.
Okay.
And what I'll do, that will bring us back on course.
Okay.
Without people noticing, because they won't see this. You can't see something if you're listening.
That's smooth.
So it's professional.
That's smooth.
That's what I'm talking about, professional.
And it matches your shirt. Not that people could see it, but
it does, and my underwear. No, it doesn't. I'm not wearing any underwear.
I don't want to see.
Actually, we're both naked right now, which is quite amazing.
Sorry.
So, I want to talk about stand-up comedy, about improv, about being on stage.
Okay.
Were there any family influences?
No.
Brilliant.
No, I mean, no one in my family has really done like this.
Yeah.
I mean, my dad had a good sense of humor, but I wouldn't say he was like the class clown, cut up kind of guy.
Yeah.
He was just a regular guy with a
Yeah.
good sense of humor. My
Yeah.
mom she was pretty good natured when I wasn't pissing her off as a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was a lot. So.
Yeah.
You know.
So there's no uncle who was in show business.
No.
There's no. So at school, were you interested in school plays or drama or anything?
You know, not really. I toyed with it a couple of times, but then it was always like, oh, that's too much work. I had to memorize a script, and then the closest I came was when I was in university. I was getting my engineering degree.
Okay.
And at the school I went to, they were doing a play called Sexual Perversity in Chicago. And that eventually became a movie called About Last Night, which had James Belushi and I forget who else was in it. So there was a lot of really good people in it.
Yeah, yeah.
And he wanted me, my friend of mine, he was not an engineering major, so he had plenty of time. He wanted me to try out for the play. He goes, you should play the part that James Belushi played in it.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a really
Blues Brother.
funny... No, that's Jim Belushi.
Oh, God. I
That's John
just
Belushi.
showed my
Belushi.
total ignorance
That's
there.
John Belushi. I was
Yeah.
thinking James or Jim. He wants to be called James.
yeah.
I'm not even sure. But the brother.
The brother.
Yeah. But he, in the movie, it was an abrasive, and he was just an over-the-top funny character. And I was really interested. He was like, oh, I should try out.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, I just don't think I have the time to like learn lines and rehearse, and that's why I got into improv. You know?
I was going to say that.
Yeah,
So okay. So at college, someone asked you to be in a play.
Yeah.
You don't really want to learn lines.
Yeah.
So what was when did you? Was there any turning point? Because in Hong Kong, you do stand-up comedy and you do improv.
Yeah.
Did you do any before you came to Hong Kong?
No. I mean, in retrospect, looking back, I did, without realizing it.
Well,
Like, say, for example, in high school, secondary school, for the British and other people, we had like a big talent show every year. And one year, a group of friends and I, we just were silly, and we worked with the organizer and the teachers organizing it, and we just were doing stupid little sketches, or we'd go out singing Old MacDonald, just stupid things. But a lot of it was just unscripted, or it was like a sketch. And then I look back now, I'm like, oh, yeah, you know what? I kind of did, and
So
I enjoyed it.
You got funny bones somewhere inside you.
I mean, so just little things like that.
That's another joke, by the way. You've got funny bones somewhere inside you. Or maybe the funny bones
Oh,
are
the
gone
funny
by
bones in my back.
Yeah, your funny bones.
Yeah.
All right. When did you come to Hong Kong?
2006.
Oh.
Yeah.
Right when Takeout Comedy was opening.
Yeah, actually, when I first moved here, it was with a company I was working with back in New York. I was a graphic designer. And we did...
I forgot to mention, for people who don't know, Takeout Comedy was the first full-time stand-up comedy club in Asia, and it opened in 2006, which is when you arrived in Hong Kong.
Yeah. So when I first got here, I was with a company. They used to do, they're called tombstones, or deal toys. So anyone in the banking world would know what they are. We were a very specialty company.
Okay.
I was doing graphic design, and they moved a salesman and myself here. And after a few months, they cut the plug on that one, but I found someone to sponsor me. And the catch was, this fellow, British guy, he sponsored me, but he didn't want me to do graphic design. He said, I can find someone local cheaper. I just want you to be sales and business development. I'm like, I don't know that. He goes, but you, basically, because I was a Westerner.
Oh, yeah, it's the power of the white face.
Yeah. So at a networking event, I met Jamie as he was opening the club, and I took one of the earlier classes he offered.
Yes, the stand-up comedy workshop.
And I took that, and then I went to some of the early shows, and I watched, because he didn't have a big pool, right? There was only a few.
And
of
you probably saw me and thought, oh yeah, I could do better than that.
Well, no, I was like, I'm not putting my head in a condom, but I could just see, because some of you guys, You could see some of you were very polished and comfortable because you'd had a stage experience before of some sort or whatever, and others were kind of struggling because you had to do a lot of material at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not going to do that. That looked painful for some people.
Yeah.
And I don't have material, so I put it on hold.
Okay.
And kept in touch with them or whatever, newsletters or not newsletters, I don't know.
Yeah, you probably saw the emails that you sent out saying what's happening.
And then a few years later, he was offering, they had improv workshops at Takeout.
Okay.
And then that's when I got back in, and so I started to do improv first.
Ah. So you did improv first?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Graphic designer. That's artistic.
Mm-hmm.
Interest in improv.
Yep.
Didn't want to have to write a script and memorize all the jokes to do stand-up comedy, so it's improv for you was your way into getting on stage.
Well, I didn't mind the script for stand-up comedy.
Right.
So, because I knew that would be okay to, start out. I didn't want to start with like 10, 15 minutes. I wanted to have something easy. And then,
start easy, yeah.
Yeah, but not easy. It's not easy, but it's like less pressure if you only have to do 3 or 5 minutes up front.
Yeah.
Then you're like, okay, I can muddle through that. Yeah.
Do you prefer, right now, improv or stand-up comedy? Do you have a favourite?
That's always a tough one. I get asked that a lot. And I hate to use that analogy. Well, it's like asking which of your kids is favorite, because parents do have a favorite kid.
You like them both?
Yeah. Well, you say that. I do like both of them. I guess a lot depends on my mood.
Yeah.
It just how I'm feeling or circumstances. But yeah, I mean, I definitely do more stand-up. There's more opportunities here.
Yeah.
And with my stand-up, I've been incorporating a lot more of my improv skill set into it. So a lot more, say, crowd work or just off the cuff or just act outs or silliness. So at this point, I guess stand-up has given me the ability to do both.
Yeah. Were there any big turning points? I guess seeing Jamie's club opening up was a big turning point. Anything else?
Yeah.
I mean, apart from meeting me, of course.
Well, yeah, I saw you.
And being on my podcast, this will change.
I gotta be in this guy's life somehow. I've always been interested in comedy. When I used to live in Manhattan, I used to go to the comedy clubs a lot just to go, watch the shows. Even back at second in university, I was a social director for our student campus, and I would bring comedians in, and I would always chat with them. And some of them, they even said to me at one point, again, I had the bug. I'm like, and we brought some comedians in from New York City. They came to. We were about an hour and a half in Connecticut, and brought them in, and they weren't like headliners, but they were definitely solid. Yeah. And just chatting with them afterwards, and they were like, "Yeah, you're pretty funny." They said, I'll work with you." They said, "I'll help you." They said, "Just basically, you got to write like about 45 minutes worth of material, and we can cull that down to 5 minutes." And that's when the laziness kicked in. I'm like, "Ooh, all right, well, I'll get back to you." And, it's been like 25 years. I don't think I've gotten back to him yet.
That's similar to me when I was a teenager. I was fascinated by stand-up comedy. Whenever there was a chance to watch it on TV, and when I came to Singapore in the 1990s, there was a comedy club which I'd go to every once a month. It was basically like a punchline.
Oh yeah.
Similar idea they bring in some guys once a month from overseas to do a set, and I would love it. And I always wanted to do it, and then I was in Hong Kong at the right time, just as you, when it started in Hong Kong. Nice. What's your go-to on-stage persona? Is it you?
Me.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's as I'm doing it more, it's me, but kind of maybe ramped up in a way, or maybe me saying the things I want to say in real life, but I just don't. You know what I mean? So maybe it's more me without all of the inhibitions.
Because you can pretty much say anything you want until maybe not this week. Since yesterday, perhaps we can't say. Oh, maybe I shouldn't even say that we can't say, because there has been a national security. What's it called? National security law.
Security. Yeah.
In Hong Kong.
Law, yeah.
Google it, guys. This is at the time we're recording. There's there's a lot happening in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
So maybe it had an impact on stand-up comedy. Because I tell you what, when I was doing stand-up comedy before I I'm putting inverted commas here.
Right.
When I was doing stand-up comedy, during my stand-up comedy career, before I retired, my go-to scapegoat were Chinese, mainland Chinese. That was my go-to scapegoat.
Okay.
For some of my gags.
All right. Sure.
So maybe if I was doing stand-up comedy now, I'd be a little bit more careful about what I was saying. Yeah. Do you think it will have an effect on stand-up comedy? Because you can't say anything you want to anymore.
Yeah, I think it will impact it. To what degree yet, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I've done some comedy up in mainland China, not as much as the guys and the ladies who are living up there performing or who have come here from. But
check out Turner Sparks' podcast.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
But of course, there's some of the limits that you cannot say. Even doing improv, which is even more, you're just there's no script, so you can't.
So how can you do improv if the back of your mind is saying I mustn't say this, I mustn't say that? That could be tricky.
It can, but you kind of keep them in as a filter, as a trigger. Like if that comes up, you know not to take that suggestion or go down that path. But now again, especially with a lot of the comedians, say Shanghai and such, have been telling me, for a while it could be everything's good and no one bothers you, but then it'll be this whole spurt of just constant harassment, not just of performers, but just of say expats in general. So it just, I don't know.
So what are you saying? This is before the national security law.
Well, I mean, this is up in mainland, so there's always a national security law.
They've got national security already.
Yeah.
So you're saying that stand-up comedians overseas in mainland China would be telling their jokes, and every now and then the locals would say, we don't like what you're saying about us.
Well, it's more the authorities.
The authorities.
So they might actually come in and say give trouble to a particular club or just.
Okay, I've got you. Yeah. So this might be a foretaste of what could possibly happen in Hong Kong.
I don't know. I mean, but then again, also a lot of my friends were doing improv up in Shanghai. Last year, they basically left. They just last summer.
Right.
A couple friends of mine from Shanghai in the scene, they moved to Thailand. Another couple people moved to Taiwan. A couple went back to U.S.
But that was last year. Why did they all leave then?
Well, because even then there was a lot of expats were getting a lot of different pressures
from authorities.
So I mean, again, I don't know what's going to happen here.
In Hong Kong.
I mean, just with the whole the police, drug tests and everything of expats, and just.
Of course, one of the advantages of being a stand-up comedian in Hong Kong is that most of the country doesn't speak much English.
Yeah.
So when you do your show, no one's listening anyway. So you can say whatever you want, and they probably won't know what you're talking about.
Generally, yeah.
Which brings me on to my next question.
Okay.
How do you deal with an audience when no one is watching or listening? And that does happen. I remember there was a time when Jamie Gong decided to take out comedy to various parts of Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And some parts where there really was there was no one really to watch our show.
Yeah.
Weird little restaurants in the middle of nowhere, in industrial zones.
Yeah.
So this is it. this is technical stuff now. This is serious.
Okay. Yep.
So you're doing a show, and this will happen a lot. Maybe doing a corporate show. It can happen in corporate shows. Unfortunately, it also can happen even in a real stand-up comedy club. Sometimes the audience just isn't listening. They're talking amongst themselves.
Yeah.
What do you do? Have you a go-to way of getting their attention?
Sometimes I will maybe call someone out.
Yeah.
Not in a mean way, but I will try to engage an audience member in dialogue.
Yeah.
Just.
Okay. Look, I'm not listening to you now. So what would you do? Like, I'm not.
Oh, okay. I'll say, hey, sir.
Yeah. What? Hey.
Sir.
Yeah.
I really hope that you're Googling me right now.
Oh.
And just saying, this guy's amazing. I need to find out more about him. Something like just to, if you get them just to at least listen or get something of a giggle, you might hook them a little bit.
Yeah. Perfect. Because I was literally just turning my back to Pete and switching on my computer. So yeah, you could make a note about if someone's on their phone, are you Googling me? There you go.
Yeah. But I mean, honestly, sometimes it's basically, you know what? They're just not. I mean, I've been in shows like that. The audience is not there for the show at all. They don't care. They don't want to engage.
Yeah.
You're almost a hindrance to their enjoyment. And at that point, honestly, it's what it feels like.
A hindrance to their enjoyment.
You know what I mean?
So actually, if you were on stage, it would be better.
So then at that point, just get through your set, do your A material, and just cut it short and say, folks, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Don't call them out. Don't like, hey, you know, you guys should be listening, because then they're going to get aggressive, and then you don't want them aggressive with you.
Yeah. So I think if it's especially if it's a free show, they haven't invested anything in the show. They probably didn't even know you're going to be there. So why should they watch you? Yeah. So don't call them out.
Exactly. Yeah.
But also don't show your disappointment or your fear.
Yeah.
Don't show any panic. Just smoothly, boom, 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 do your sets.
Yeah.
Off you go.
Yeah.
Job done.
That's it, really. I mean,
and sometimes the organizer will come and say, "Great job. That was really good." So
and the thing is, you may get like a few people that were paying attention, and they will appreciate you for that. Because a lot of times, especially when you're on stage, you can't see or hear everyone.
Yeah.
And so you're just thinking overall, wow, they were not listening, they hated it. But you may get a few that after the show go, hey, you know what, that was really funny, or they just at least respect you to say, hey, that was a great job.
Now that's a very good tip, because I heard another entertainer say that he will search out for the one person who's really enjoying the show, and just keep them in his eye, so he did. Oh yeah, this is going well. Yeah, enjoy it.
This is for you, sir.
The only drawback sometimes is that you do finish these shows, and someone will come up to you and go, "Oh, don't worry, I'm sure you'll get better. I'm sure that if you get..." It's like, no, I am better. It was just the wrong situation. There was a pillar right in front of the stage. No one could see me.
Yeah, I don't even reply. I just go, "Oh, okay," and that's it. Oh, okay.
I would say your strengths are probably that you've got improv as another weapon.
Yeah.
What do you think are your strengths?
Yeah, I mean the improv. That's a big one.
Yeah, I think it's major. Because I find it hard. Oh no, let's not talk about me. But basically, I can go full on jumping around with a condom on my head, and I can improv during that quite happily. But my weakness is when I take the condom off and have to talk to people. Yeah. Unless it's a podcast, I find it very hard to talk to people.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, I'll play the dumb guy a lot in my set. I'm the dumb American, or whatever. Yeah. But I mean, I do try to keep up with news, or I've always liked to read or just find out things. So at least try to keep some kind of knowledge. Always have something ready, or just even if it's not correct, or at least it sounds like you know what you're doing.
You should say that more positive. Don't sound so hesitant. Yeah, that's absolutely what you should do. Yeah, I love it. And in fact, what I think is a good idea on a podcast is to always sound like you absolutely know what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then people listening will go, "Oh yeah, this guy really knows his stuff."
Good. This guy's good.
Even if it's talking rubbish,
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Just like commitment. Yeah, same as stand-up comedy probably. How do you deal with? Oh, you touched on this slightly, but how do you deal with different venues, like bad microphones, low ceilings, tables facing the wrong way? Have you had any bad ones?
Yeah, depending on the situation. Sometimes I will just adapt to it. If it's like, say, a bad visuals, like you mentioned about a column, or the tables or the chairs aren't quite facing the right way. I may, especially if I have the wireless mic or a long enough cord, or if I can just project enough, maybe go out into the crowd or audience, and we do this in improv a lot, especially some of the corporate shows we've done. So maybe play with the room or play with the space.
God, I'm really trying to think of a bad venue now, because I like to be specific. Oh man, I have to edit this out. I can't think of any. There must have been so many bad venues. Can you think of any bad venues?
I had a really bad one time. I did a show up in Shenzhen.
Yeah.
And it was at an Indian restaurant. And it seemed like it was like a last minute change of venue. I don't know. So we get there, and I was headlining, so I was supposed to do like 30 or 40 minutes. They had no spotlight. Instead, what they had were like floor lights shining up.
Okay.
Right? And they were kind of a green color, so it looked kind of spooky, like a Halloween show.
So you were highlighted from below, like a Halloween character.
I think I have 1 or 2 photos on my website from the show. And the mic wasn't the best, and behind us there was a service window, and every once in a while a waiter or waitress would come over and ding one of the bells.
Oh yeah.
And then some guy's head would just pop out and take the order or whatever.
Yeah.
So but I played with that a little bit, so just adapt to it.
Yeah. What's the place where Jamie does his promotions in one show? What's that?
Charterhouse?
Yeah. That's got like a fence halfway through the audience.
The half a wall.
So some people
thing,
are really far away. They're like behind a fence, behind a wall.
Yeah, that's true.
And the tables aren't necessarily facing the right way.
They're kind of sitting to the side of you. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah.
You talked about doing a 30 to 40 minute set.
Yeah.
Is there an ideal length for your show? Do you have a favourite length these days?
Yeah, I mean, actually,
for me, it's 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
That's my favourite. Yeah,
okay.
5 minutes. I like to go on first, so I can turn up, do the show. I'm on first. 5 minutes, get home within half an hour.
There you go.
Yeah, that's my favourite. I don't talk to anybody. Totally antisocial.
Just get out.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
save it for the podcast.
What's your favourite length?
Yeah, actually, 30 to 40. I really like.
Wow.
Because it gives you a chance to get to know the audience.
Yeah.
You can move at a slower pace. You don't have to worry about pausing or slow. It's fine. There's time.
Yeah.
And the audience doesn't get too tired.
Yeah.
I've done hour shows before.
No.
And what happens, and I've talked with other people who've done this, and they basically said about the same thing. Right around the 40-minute mark, the audience starts to get pretty tired. Because you've been chatting with them. Even if they're enjoying the show, they start to get tired. And so for like the next 10 minutes, that's just kind of you and the audience like, hey, all right, how's it going? You know, it's a very low energy part. And then the last 10 minutes, you ramp it up again because then you're selling it and bringing it home. So doing that 30 to 40, that to me it's ideal because it gives you time and space to play, and you can pace it differently, but the audience doesn't get tired yet. So I like that.
You know, I'd like to make a fascinatingly profound point here because, as people well know, I am actually an intellectual.
Yeah, I knew that.
Even though I'm not wearing my glasses at the moment.
Well, the contacts, I can see that.
Because I do a lot of children's birthday parties, and the same rule applies. After 30 to 40 minutes, you stop the magic show, get the kids up, and you play party games.
Yeah.
There's a limit to the human mind.
Yep.
And that it comes watching live entertainment. You focus so hard on the entertainer for 30 to 40 minutes.
Yep.
After that, the brain needs a break.
Yeah.
Good one. I like that. Top tips from
Top
Grella.
tips. Can we do that as a segment?
Yeah.
Top tips.
And now it's time for top tips. Oh wow! Wow, God! Oh, this is amazing.
Tip number one.
You're ruining the homemade essence of my podcast. Maybe the recording will be so bad it will sound homemade.
Okay.
Now, Hong Kong's a strange place to do stand-up comedy because most people in the country, their English isn't of a high enough level to understand our kind of stand-up comedy. So where on earth do you get a chance to perform a 30 to 40 minute set?
I mean, here I've done before.
Yeah.
Bangkok quite a few times. Where else? Kathmandu.
Let me stop here, right? So, did you put on your own show, or are you invited by someone like Jamie Gong to do a special at his club?
Well, for let's say, for example, for Jamie's at Takeout, I did an hour show. Was it 1 or 2 years ago?
Yeah.
I had like a Friday and a Saturday an hour show.
Yeah.
And then there are a few other times he's had me do 30 to 40 minutes.
Yeah.
That's part of a bigger show.
Yeah.
But other times, it's been I've been invited over to headline.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So one of the comedy clubs in one of the neighbouring countries knows you're a solid performer. Says, "Hey Pete, you come over here."
Yeah.
There's not much money, right?
It's not a whole lot, but
will they pay for your airfare and your hotel?
It depends on where you're going and in the venue.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna get me back on time here.
Okay.
Okay. You are lucky enough to have done some corporate shows, and I say lucky enough in I don't know, whether it's lucky or not. It's lucky because you get the gig and you get some money.
Yeah.
But they're also pretty tough, right?
Yeah. if you can walk away from a corporate show and you go, that was all right, that was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can be.
Any tips? Is it the same tip as when the audience isn't watching you? Just get on, do your stuff, don't show any fear.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And there are going to be some people that are there to see you.
Yeah.
Or that are really into it. So don't give up on them. So have the show, do your stuff.
Yeah.
But find those few pockets where the people are reacting, are paying attention. Yeah.
I remember doing the corporate show and thinking, oh yeah, well I could research the company and do some gags about them. But it's very hard because those gags I've never done them before until that moment, and maybe if I had more experience, I could do similar gags to similar companies over the years. But as a one-off, I found it very hard to write new material specifically for that company.
And you know what? They usually fall flat. Honestly, because what do you do when you work at a place? You make fun of it yourself.
Yeah.
And what do you do with your coworkers? You make fun of each other. So as someone coming in, it's going to be very difficult to top that unless you can see some perspective that they're missing because
that's true. Actually, yeah, because it's like when you're doing stand-up and you ask someone's name and you make a joke about their name. Your name is Pat. Oh, we better not wear a T-shirt with your name on the chest.
Right.
It's very funny, but probably someone said it before. That she's probably all her life because her name's Pat.
Yeah. But if it's something about the name of the company or their mission statement or just whatever, and if you can come up with something clever. And then everyone there goes, "Oh my God, I've never seen that before." Yes.
I'm trying desperately now to think of if I've ever had a specific example of one of those ideas that's actually worked, and I can't think of any. So I'm going to move on. If you can think of anything specific,
okay.
But I can't think of anyone that's ever worked for me. No. But this brings me on to my next question, which is very professional of me. Talking about where do you get new ideas, where do you write, and where do you rehearse new material for stand-up? How do you do a new bit then? Do you just...
I get a snippet or something and I send myself an email. And I just say, I do. No, because I have a record of it. Like, and then it's just like, bit about this. And then I go through and the ones that intrigue me, I might jot down a little bit more about them, flesh them out a little bit more. But then it's either open mic or just at a show and I'll just try it. Yeah, and kind of build it out.
If a bit did work, how would you remember that bit worked? You come off stage, do you make a mental note that bit worked, or do you make it?
Yeah, mental note, or a lot of times, especially if it's, let's say, because there's like a very limited pool of us who perform, right?
Yeah.
And just in percentage-wise of the population, so we all know each other. And we've all seen each other's sets so many times.
Yeah.
So when you come off stage, or someone comes off stage and that was a new bit or something hit, first thing everyone, oh man, that was funny.
Yeah.
And then when someone says that, who's seen your set so many times, and they go, that new bit was great, or something, then you go, okay, we're on to something. I do try to record all of my sets.
So you do make a recording.
Yeah. Not that I watch them, but I...
That's the point I was looking for. Yeah. You do you video it or make a recording, so then you can check back on the bits that worked. All right. Pete Grella, I'm sure everybody knows exactly who you are.
Okay.
But if there's someone who wants to find you on the interweb, is that the right word? I'm a bit of...
It's close enough.
The interweb. If they want to goggle you...
Goggle means
interweb,
put goggles on.
Where would they find you? Where would they find you on the internet?
Well, if they want to go to PeteGrella.com. You can. That's my website. I haven't updated it in a while. But, or on Facebook, obviously, just Pete Grella or Pete Grella Comedian. Grella.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic, man.
Thank you.
Woo!
Great seeing you again.
It's really good to see you. Oh, Pete Grella, ladies and gentlemen. Pete Grella has left the building. Thanks very much for listening through the whole of this podcast. Do stay tuned for another 2 minutes. We have a little bonus item, a very funny story of Pete Grella and top comedian Tom Cotter in just a moment. But a quick word from me. This podcast does take a surprisingly large amount of hours to record, prepare, edit, re-record, throw in the bin, take out of the bin, re-edit from scratch, etc, etc. So if you'd like to support this podcast, please do. Go to thebigbenShow.com/podcasts and you'll see various ways of supporting this podcast. And alright, thank you very much. Let's have one last funny story from Pete Grella.
Or we had another one that was horrible, and actually this one, Tom Cotter was over visiting.
Oh yeah.
Right, and for those of you who don't know, Tom Cotter, a professional American comedian, he was the runner-up on America's Got Talent. I think it was like 3 or 4 seasons ago.
Wow.
So yeah, he's top-notch, awesome, hilarious.
Yeah. And
he used to come over every year almost, just do shows at Takeout. So he came over one year, and there was this one, I forget the name of the bar, it's on Hollywood Road, but they had this big event going on, and it was like, I don't know, just we're going to have musicians, and we're going to have singers, and this and that, and there's going to be comedy, and I forget how we got involved, but they had PLI, People's Liberation Improv, the improv team I started performing with here. They wanted some improv, and since Tom Cotter was over, I think maybe Jamie arranged it from Takeout, and he said to them, "Oh yeah, I can get you some improv. They'll do like 10 minutes of improv, and we have a professional over, Tom Cotter."
Yeah.
So Tom was going to do like say a 5-minute teaser set.
Yeah.
So we show up. Now first of all, we were having a rehearsal at Takeout with our improv, and we were supposed to get over to the venue like 9:30 or 10, and Tom met up with us. And we all walked over, and we got there, and they were like, yeah, you guys gonna go on like around midnight. We're like, what? You said be here like 9:30 or 10. Oh, yeah, everything's running late. And it was just, I don't know. It was just this horror scene. It was just a mess, right? And I'll never forget this, because we walked in.
You had to wait for 3.5 hours.
Something like that. Yeah, it was just horrible. And as soon as we walked in, Tom, he turns to us, right? There was only like, say, 4 or 5 of us from PLI. It was just a short little, like, quick set thing. He turns to us, and he goes, "This is gonna suck."
Yes. It did.
He was just like, "This is going to suck," and we're like, "Oh wow, thanks." But it did. I mean, it was just, and there was just like, I don't know, like music. Like there was this dude, right, and it was like, he was playing the didgeridoo, right? It was like this white guy with the dreadlocks thing, right? Yeah, playing didgeridoo. But he was playing it with the rock band, and you'd say, "Okay, this could be cool." You're like, you know how when the cello brothers played like AC/DC, Thunderstruck, or you get like a banjo band playing Thunderstruck. You're like, okay, you know, maybe they get a didgeridoo. They're gonna play hard rock, and he's going playing with it, right? No, it was just the band was just playing something, and then this dude would just jump in once in a while and start going. It's like, no. The audience was eating it up when they were paying attention. So we go on and we start. Oh, great! So we're doing our improv, and it was like, yeah, it went as horribly as you would expect. And then Tom went on to do his stand-up a little bit. Yeah. And he starts doing it, and he gets heckled by one of the MCs.
The MC?
Yes. There was 2 MCs there, but one of the MCs, he had turned his mic on, and he heckled Tom. And
on the microphone?
Yes.
Whoa.
And Tom stops, looks at him, he goes, You really want to do this? And the guy was just like, well, and then Tom just went into him, boom, boom, boom. And it's like, are we finished? And then the guy just turned it. It was like, that's what it was. And then we left, and then we were like, you were right, that sucked. He goes, that was a train wreck. He goes, but everyone did your job, and you pulled through, and you got experience, and I'm proud of you, and that kind of thing. So yeah, so that was not very pleasant.
Yeah, bonding. You can bond after horror stories, and you fulfilled your contractual obligation.
Yes,
which I think you have done more than fulfill your
pleasure.
Contractual obligation of payment of $0 for appearing on my podcast, which also brings in $0. So thank you very much again.
Thank you. Great
you must be hungry. I'm hungry as well.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to press record. Oh shit!
Oh no!
I love doing this.